Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another panel discussion with some of the authors of Inspired Connections. We've had an absolutely incredible 24 hours bringing this book into the world, starting in Australia yesterday morning. It's 10 a.m. Saturday here right now. And in the US, we've reached, we're at the eve now, and we have hit #1 in Australia in about 15 categories or something crazy like that. In Bea Marie in Germany in 2 categories. In the UK, we have blown it out of the water, 11 categories, I think, which is like amazing. In the US in 2, and I think there might still be some more because it's only 7 p.m. There's still some opportunity. Canada, were a very close #2, and of course #1 in hot new releases in numerous categories. So we're just so thrilled for everyone's support, because this message that we are bringing out into the world with this book is very dear to my heart. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Crystal Hill, the founder of Hill House Publishing, and Inspired Connections, unleashing the magic of deeper relationships is really dear to my heart. I've been wondering and looking at and investigating and observing how culture has changed, how the world has changed, and how authentic relationships are really becoming so much more important. So that's the conversation I would like to have with all of the people here. But before we do that, let's bring you all on bigger. Welcome. Maybe we'll go around very briefly who you are, how you're feeling, and what gifts you are bringing into the world. Bea Marie, let's start with you.
Hi, yes. So, it is really late here. It is actually tomorrow. Oh no, wait, you are already on tomorrow, right?
We're already
I'm
on
on
tomorrow.
yesterday.
You already
Not today.
slept. Yes. So I didn't sleep yet.
I'm
so
still on yesterday. So,
it's so
It looks
cool.
good. It looks good on this side, just so you know.
awesome.
Oh, this is going to be such a great conversation. So, all right. So, I'm a holistic success mentor. I help people, especially female entrepreneurs and leaders, to really turbo boost their success energy and live a life beyond their wildest dreams. Make the impossible possible. And Inspired Connections came to me as like this beautiful gift on my journey, because we cannot make the impossible possible without having an inspired connection, to ourselves, being in alignment with ourselves, and also having inspired connections to the people and to like nature around us. Because if we don't see, if we don't hear, if we don't smell, if we don't taste, if we don't use our senses, we are basically numb. And when you're numb and shut off in your body, then I don't know what kind of life that should be. Like this to me is really sad. And I mean, we have all experienced being kind of shut down in a way when, during COVID, we had to stay at home. We could only call people on the phone or go via video. And I mean, this is a great accomplishment, that we can actually now talk to people from yesterday and tomorrow at the same time. So this is really cool. But at the same, and this is a wonderful inspired connection that I truly cherish, that I've won. And yeah, so having an inspired connection, that I'm talking about this in my chapter as well, to yourself, for me, is the most important part. Because if you cannot hang out with yourself, then who should? So getting in alignment with yourself, getting in a cool, good, nurturing relationship with yourself, knowing yourself what you want, what feels good, what nourishes you, is the #1 goal in my book for this life to accomplish. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do some rapid fire, and we can all contribute and share, but let's introduce each other or yourselves first. So Megan, who are you? What is your gift in the world? And how did you end up here?
Well, that's a long story, really. But so I am a network marketing expert and a women's financial empowerment mentor. I also work in the technology industry. I've done that for 25 years, but I really shifted 10 years ago into network marketing and the inspired connections. That's really in my chapter, I talk about it, that's really where I found my success because I wanted to do something new. I didn't have those skills but I'm pretty good with people. And so I went in to that situation and instead of just going in and wanting stuff from people, I looked around and I saw what they needed and what skills that I actually had from my previous life and things I've learned along the way. And I gave those things to the people that had the stuff that I needed. And then we had this shared relationship that really grew. I mean, it grew so many friendships along the way, but being able to collaborate, I think, is just the way the world is moving. And social media is allowing us to do it so much more easily. But it's collaboration, over competition. I never feel like I have to step on someone else to get where I want to be. I can actually get much higher and pull people up with me, or other people are pulling me up if we all just work together. And I really feel like that's the biggest shift I see in the world right now is people are waking up to that they don't have to do it you don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the best at everything. You can learn new things. You're not stuck in who you've been your whole life or what other people identify in you. You can change and you can learn new things. But the easiest way to do that is through relationships with other people and working together.
Absolutely. And I think you have in your chapter, what I love, both you and Jenny are in the business section about business connections, which is beautiful. So we can have a little bit of a conversation about how inspired connections really feed into our success as an entrepreneur. And Bea Marie, you're kind of creating the foundations for these business connections to saying, okay, we've got to take the masks off. We've got to be who we truly are. But before we get into that conversation, Jenny, let's hear from you. Who are you? What are you doing in the world? And why? How did you end up here?
I'll start with why I ended up here and how. Thank you, Crystal. We started working together months ago, and you told me about this book. We were working on your business, and you said, "Oh, Jenny, this is my next book. It's Inspired Connections." And the first time we spoke, my heart went, mm-hmm. And then the second time we spoke about the book, my heart just went, mm-hmm. And a voice said, "You got to be in this." I'm like, "I'm not ready. What's going on? I'm not ready with this. I don't know. I don't have time. I don't have everything, right?" And then the third time you spoke, the voice went, and I went, "All right, how do I sign up?" And that was when it happened. I think it hit you like with shock. Oh, okay, it's happening. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like easiest sale ever.
Yeah, our conversation totally pivoted. Yeah, that was such a fun surprise.
Yeah. And for me, that's the example of an inspired connection. Right? When you find people you are vibing with, that you're on the same frequency, and you just, from the moment we started working together, it just clicked. It fell into place. It worked. We you would share ideas about your business. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I'm seeing this. And we vibrated in a powerful way together. It was a strong exchange. There was a strong position of growth. And I think for me, a few years ago, you told me 10 years ago, this is what I would be doing. No, I was in a place where I was starved of interactions like that. Starved, and my heart ached for it. My heart ached for belonging. I was struggling to find belonging up until the age of 42. A round peg, square hole. I'm sure our listeners will be resonating with that. And you walk around wondering, where are your people? Where are your people? And when you find your people, your world just explodes. Finally, you're walking in the desert and finally walked out of it. And now you see your tribe. And how powerful is that? And then the connections, thanks to you, Crystal, I've been speaking on the stage, shared my message on Zones of Genius, even before the book came out. So for me, that is important. And as a business owner, I run my business, Zones of Genius and Inspired Connections is what I do with my team, is what I still do with my clients. And it's because I know how powerful it is when you work together. We get there faster together. So yeah.
Absolutely. And what I love what you were just sharing is that whole transformation that happens to the authors. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Where were you in the beginning before you started writing this chapter and embarked on this journey? And where are you now? Like maybe we can just in a nutshell, like really quickly sort of answer that question. And before we go into this kind of bigger conversation around why Inspired Connections and why is it more important than ever right now?
If I may start, one of the things that I see that the world is starved of and still is belonging. We have this need to constantly draw a line in relationships because of what we believe in or because of who we support, which political campaign we get behind, or which, do we support transgender communities or not? And there needs to be a line. We need to know where we belong in the debate, in the campaign. And if you don't have an opinion, we're going to convince you otherwise. So it's just so frustrating for people to know, why can't we just get along? That's what I constantly keep hearing. Why can't we just get along? Why is it not okay if you disagree? Why can't we still have a relationship? A few years ago when Trump came into power, that divide, it fractured families, it fractured relationships. People couldn't coexist. He was polarizing, no doubt. But there's so many topics like that in the world that are fracturing relationships when we seem to misplace that.
I think that's why it's so important to connect with people on a personal level, like we've done, because a lot of it's in your head. Like the fracturing is all in our head. I don't care what political party somebody belongs to. I truly don't. I don't care if we disagree. We can disagree on lots of things. That's okay. But I think social media can have an effect where it repeats a narrative over again. People start to believe that, and then they feel like, I can't talk to that person because we disagree on this. But if you actually just go out and talk to your neighbor, or you go out and talk to your friend that is on the total opposite spectrum, you realize how much more in common you have than your differences. We're all going to disagree on things. That's just by being human. But at the core, we all are starving for relationships. The way that you put that really resonated with me, because I feel like 10 years ago when I made that shift, I didn't realize how starved I was until somebody came into my life and gave me a hug, and I felt like, oh my gosh, when you find those people that make you feel good about yourself and accept you when you're broken and pull you up and teach you new things. And that's, that's out there. And so you don't have to stay in this little box alone. You need to find your people.
You need to find your people. Exactly. And the only way you can do that is to really know who you are first without wearing the mask. And I'll let Maria let you speak to that in a minute. But I think the one thing I wanted to say about, the fracturing of relationships, I truly believe that is on purpose. That the main mass media are doing that on purpose to segregate, even and especially with the whole, LGBTQ community. It's all to disrupt and to stop the unity and stop us from believing, Megan, what you were saying, really, that we are foundationally, we are all seeking belonging, and that we all have the same needs and we all just want love. But if we the more we dissect the other things, the more we go into the minute things, the more differences we find. But if we kind of chunk it up, in NLP, we say we'll chunk it up, we go to the highest denominator, we suddenly realize we're all one.
Yeah. And when I do disagree with someone, I try to think about it like, well, would I be upset if we liked different colors, if our favorite color was different, because it's all like that. I don't know all of your experiences and how you got to the opinion that you have, and that's okay. Like that, it really is. We're all at the core wanting these connections, wanting these relationships, and we allow these, to me, that are petty. They're just petty. It's no point even if we disagree, just respectfully disagree, and then find all the things that you love and agree with that person and vibe with, instead of looking for all the little differences.
Yeah. So let's go to Bea Marie, how do we, like, what is your connection to that? I know in your chapter, you're saying, don't be vanilla, which is like this underlying need to belong makes us vanilla. And yet that is the very thing that keeps us in separation. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, thank you. So, when we are born, we come onto this earth and we're perfect. We're just perfect, remarkable, incredible geniuses. Because when you look at little kids playing together, they don't care what kind of color you have, like hair color, skin color. They don't care what status you have. They just play with each other. Yes, they disagree, but they don't hold a grudge. They fight over a toy, and 10 seconds later, they're best friends again. And, then after a while, like when you start elementary school, then it starts when you want to belong, when you want to be seen, when you want to be loved, when you don't want to be the outcast who nobody plays with. So that's when we start creating those personas that keep us safe. That when we're putting on masks that protect us. When we feel like, or when we had rejections because we do weird things, like funny faces, and people are like, oh, this is weird. Then you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because I want to belong and I'm going to be nice. And that's why there are so many people pleasers out in the world. I'm a recovering people pleaser here. So really this thing about that we crave, what Megan, what Jenny, what you said, this starvation of belonging, this need for a human connection is so strong that we bind ourselves and turn ourselves into something that we're not. And as adults, all of a sudden, like something happens and we realize, wow, this is not me. And then the peeling process begins, like this mask, then that mask, then this mask. And I called my chapter Don't Be Vanilla because 70% of the world's population loves vanilla. Vanilla is in everything. There's this, hi, Cynthia. There
Right.
is this like body fragrance. It is in lotion. It is the most used scent in beauty products. Why? Because people love to smell it. And we cannot all be vanilla. We cannot all feed or fit in everybody's expectations, because we are different. And that is the good thing. That is the one thing that makes us all equal, that we are different. So we need to find our own flavor. And even if it's the weirdest thing and it sounds really disgusting, for you, it might be the one perfect thing. And there will be other people who think, wow, chocolate covered marshmallow strawberry ice cream. Yes, that sounds amazing. Or that sounds so disgusting, it has to be amazing. Because there's my childhood hero, Pippi Longstocking, said, I've never tried this before, so it must be amazing. Or I must be good at it. And I feel like we're not taking risks anymore because we are too afraid to not fit in anymore. And so I just want to encourage everyone, just take a leap of faith and, meet somebody on a heart level, on a human level, and just like the Care Bears, show them yours and they show you theirs. Because when you are vulnerable, you give other people the the permission to also be vulnerable and show their true color, their true fragrance.
You also invite, by taking those masks off, you're inviting your people.
Yes.
The reason why you're surrounded by people that don't inspire you is because you're projecting a mask, and the people that, sync with that mask are coming to you. And so if you just drop the mask, the people will come.
Absolutely,
Sure.
because we live in a resonant universe. The universe resonates back to you what you're sending out.
Yep.
You're on mute, Crystal.
Thank you. Had some very noisy birds a minute ago, so I muted myself. Pierre Marie, this resonance is something that I really, you shared so powerfully on your journey and in your chapter, where you were not going deep within yourself. You were staying on the surface, and you were wondering, why are all these people so superficial? And
Yes.
turning the mirror around and looking at yourselves, because I am vanilla, I don't dare to explore my flavors. And then when you did, the world reflected different people back to you. That's the only way we find our tribe. And I think this is such an important encouragement to anybody listening. When we have that moment where the universe or whatever you believe in kind of just says, right, it's time for you to be authentic now. No more masks, no more bullshit, no more people pleasing, and it strips things away. And you find yourself alone for a moment. That vacuum that's being created is necessary to it's like the cocoon in of the butterfly, right? It's that cocoon moment, the vacuum, where we find out, well, who am I? What do I really like? If I'm not liking what my husband is liking, or my who I'm now no longer with, if all of these roles no longer are stripped away, well, who am I? And when we find the answer to that, and I love, all the stories in this book share the journeys of how each of you have found that flavor, the answer to that, and how as a result, then we find our tribe. And it can happen to everyone. And so, Cynthia, welcome to this conversation. I'm so grateful that you're here. As a bereavement counselor, this whole question around identity and belonging and relationships, I'm going to leave it as vague and open as that for you to speak into this as you've kind of heard the tail end of our conversation, introducing yourself and then just sharing around those themes of identity and becoming ourselves in community, in relationship to others.
Yes. So yes, I am Cynthia Aldrich, and I've been having a sort of identity crisis between the Cynthia Lorenz Aldrich and Cynthia Aldrich. I've got both names sprinkled through now. So, but I was in the process when I entered into this project. What am I going to use as my author name? And this is a little bit off, but it does fit in also. My birth name, my family name is Lorenz, and I've always loved that name. I dropped it for many years and just used Cynthia Aldrich because of the associations with my family, that the memories and everything that were still coming up at the time. And now I'm embracing it as part of my journey, which of course I do talk about in my chapter. The thing about, I had a very, it's taken me a long time to recognize how extreme my childhood experience was. I went from feeling it was normal, but I was always trying to please my mother and other matron authority figures. And so I was never being myself because that was what was not accepted from the year actively from year 2, and even before. But so I was always trying to be like my mother, and trying to please her, trying to get love from her, trying to be like her. There's a picture of me when I'm like 4 or something in those days. It was like the early 50s by that time. And these big chairs, wonderful chairs with wide arms. So I could sit on it and it would be like a big seat for me. So she's sitting, we're getting ready to go somewhere, probably some big family to do. And she's got this very lovely dress on. And she made my dresses. So she loved to sew. And I'm sitting there on the edge of the couch. She's got her leg crossed and she has a certain attitude. And I've adopted her exact attitude. The leg crossed, the look on the everything about it. And every time I see that picture, it's like, wow, that really sums up where I was trying to be vanilla. And I'm so not vanilla. And I knew that. I also knew that, not always consciously when I was little, but, as I was growing up. And so in the course of that, in trying to break out of that mental construct and emotional straitjacket too, in a sense, because, emotions weren't allowed, and I was very emotional. And just breaking out of that and giving myself the permission over time to feel. That was number one, to feel what I really felt, not hold it and try to mold it for someone else. And it was this step-by-step process in my growing conscious relationship with Source. I'd always been connected with nature, and through that to what I thought of as the source of everything is how I thought of it. And so as that connection started to grow, and I was really asking questions about, how do I really feel? And that kind of thing when I was in my 20s, after I got away from a really bad first marriage. And that was really the beginning of that was my real budding and blossoming, and my devotion to becoming whole, a whole person who knew who she was, what she wanted, and was going to would go for that. Well, having the realization, as you probably all know from whatever experiences you have had, having the realization and having the reality of the change happen is not, it's not done and dusted like that. It's a process, of course. And so I learned about that and met the love of my life, and that really helped me a lot to be able to come forth more in the acceptance there. He was the
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's such a fascinating journey, isn't it? How we are programmed to be like the ones who are looking after us, to then finding out who we are and backtracking and dancing with the in-between phase, going back to it and unconsciously still having to resolve it, to finally then coming into, okay, here's who I truly am. Just because we've already been going for half an hour, I want to just hear from you in one or two sentences. How do you now help your clients to in this world with all of this incredible experience and life wisdom that you have gained? How do you help them now?
In the sense of grief, and also there is oftentimes a process of finding oneself after being coupled for, especially for a number of years. And so there's many ways that that I do that. It's through a process of inquiry at first, of asking them questions about are they living, were they living the life that they have wanted to live? You know, they were living the life they wanted to live with their beloved. Were they personally, you know, satisfied? Are they on a journey to find out who they really are? Most people are still on the journey to find out who they really are. I'm finding that more with the younger generations now, that there is more knowing at an earlier age. And then, of course, there's a lot more life to live. And, you know, and then that informs the person also. But they knew a lot more about themselves than I did at that age. I also, depending on if they're stuck or if they're in process, then, you know, I find out what they're doing and see what I can add to it. Sometimes
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I know there is so much that you can go into, but in essence, in a nutshell, you're a bereavement counselor. You're helping people after they've lost a significant other to kind of finding themselves again and creating that inspired relationship with themselves.
Yes.
And you've got all this whole tool bag worth of things, including spirituality, art, shamanism to make that happen. So I want to wrap it up here, but before we do, let's just go around the circle again, rapid fire, 1 or 2 questions. Why do you, yes, Jenny.
Crystal, why did you start Inspired Connections?
I always, every single book that I create is a reflection of an inquiry that I have in my life at that time. So my very first book was called Fearless Presence, which was just after I had left my husband. So this was about me really finding myself and drawing on certain qualities within myself and activating them. I think Inspired Connections is the progression of that, of seeing, well, if relationships can be so dysfunctional, if we as a collective or individuals have so much trauma and pain and hurt that we have to attack each other in such horrible ways, even though we know, well, I don't know, I can only speak for myself. But yeah, how do we get into these situations? How do we even allow ourselves to be so disempowered? How do we even allow ourselves to get to this? And so this inquiry into where do we become disempowered? And for me, it was the people pleasing, the needing to fit in, the wanting to be my best, seeking the answers outside of myself. So those were all aspects that I've discovered within myself. And so I think I wanted to get a really holistic understanding of and exploration of this theme of inspired connections, because I realize and recognize that relationships really are becoming a lot more important, and we're at a pivotal time in history where we can no longer succeed with masks on. It doesn't work. We're coming in a time where we do need to be authentic, and Cynthia touched on that in saying the children from today, they're coming in with a lot more awareness because we, as their parents, have done so much of the inner work already, so they don't have to. So they're benefiting from what we've done. And so so I was curious to find out the different angles of how other people have experienced dysfunctional relationships or inspired relationships, and to create a collective, diverse body of work of diverse experiences to really explore this theme, so that everybody who's listening and reading this book will see themselves reflected back in it in different facets, and therefore gain a deeper understanding of where they're at in their journey towards inspired connections.
Beautiful. And now you're seeing this come to fruition. This is gorgeous for you. You know, I was just
Yes.
thinking, you had over 162, I've done the math estimatedly 162 authors have worked with you. And they've gone on to become bestsellers in their categories across the world. Congratulations. This is another beautiful example of how you do this, how you change the world, your wider impact, and through us, with us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, it's really my mission, and I love bringing people together to create these collaborations, because Megan, you were saying it, together we build each other up, you know, together we are so much more powerful and stronger. And so I love this platform, this medium of multi-author books where we can come together, where we can create collaborations, and look how everyone has expanded in their own personally, but also in their business, just by going on this journey. And now we get to shine even brighter, make an even bigger impact in our own communities, because we have been connected in this book. So again, thank you so much for being a part of it. And yeah, I just love to get this book out far and wide. So if you're listening and you haven't gotten your copy yet, please go and buy the book. Buy it for somebody else. Buy it for somebody who's going through relationship challenges or grief or really, in a personal crisis, thinking, well, who am I? Or in business, thinking, oh, the old ways don't work anymore. So what do I need to do? You'll find the answers through stories and tools in this book. So thank you all so very much. Again, I think we'll just go one final word from each of you, literally one sentence. Or two, but no more than that. What is it that you would love? Like, what's your intention with this book? What are your final words? Like the wisdom that is dropping in for you right now that you feel you want to share with the listeners? Megan.
I really want people, I hope the people that resonate with my story can see that you can literally be at the edge of the dark abyss and you can come out of it. And you have the strength to do that, and you can make the choices to do that. And there's so much out there to help you, and you don't have to do it alone. And I just want people to know that just because you're a grown up doesn't mean you're done growing, and you can be, you have the potential to be whatever you want, and don't allow any circumstance or any person make you feel like you're not enough. And if you put yourself out there, you will find your people, and they will sit with you. I had so many people that sat with me in that abyss. I had people that walked with me in it. And, I'm forever grateful for all the people and all the relationships I made along the way that pulled me out of that. And that, you just there's more out there than that moment of darkness. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jenny.
4 words: can't stop, won't stop. And like Megan, I've been in that abyss too, and I know what it feels like to be there. I wrote a note to one of my mentor, and I consider him a mentor because of this one reason. When I was in a very similar abyss very early on in my life, it's not only one abyss that I went through, I reached out to some of the great thought leaders, inspirational speakers in the world, and I asked for advice. How do I get out of this place where I feel like I'm stuck? I can't move. I can't breathe. I'm so unhappy. And of all the people I wrote to, and there were many, he's the only one who responded. And this is a guy who, when he speaks to the chairmen of the world, he makes $500,000 a year. You could say, oh, maybe it was his team, Jenny. It didn't matter. The fact that there was a letter that came back to me in that moment of despair and absolute hopelessness. And the message at that time it didn't do anything for me. It wasn't a solution because I was like, I wanted to move on. I needed a solution. But now as I reflect back, that helped me. The fact that he replied helped me. That I wasn't ignored. Again, it goes back to the belonging, that you're seen. And why would anyone want to do that? And to me, that's why the work we do is so important. Can't stop, won't stop, because someone right now needs to hear the message. You need to hear the message. And we're going to just reflect the love to you, send you all that love and compassion that you need, and whatever that it is that you need to fully be who you need to be, so that you find your path, your journey, your tribe. And we're going to be right there leading you along the way. Keep coming back to this book. Keep coming to our events. Whatever you need, don't stop. Can't stop, won't stop.
Thank you. Very powerful. Cynthia, a couple of sentences from you about your wisdom for the reader.
I want my reader to know that because their beloved, a beloved has died, it's not the end of life. I want them to know that grief is a process, that you can make choices in the midst of grief. Maybe not in the very beginning, the intense shock and pain, but you make choices. And it's possible to find a new life worth living, that there is love, there is joy. And even more love if you allow the grief to really open you. And that expands the love, and first of all, for yourself.
Thank you. Very important message. Thank you. Bea Marie, your wisdom for the reader.
Yes, I want our reader or the one watching right now to know that you're perfect. You're born perfect, and you came here for a reason. And that reason is to shine your light fully out of your heart. Your gifts are unique. That's why you came here. So don't hide them. Don't hide yourself. Don't hide your flavor, because the world needs it right now. The world needs your most authentic self. They need you to step into your light and shine it, so that the people that are in the abyss, who are in the dark right now, can see that light and follow it back to their light.
Beautifully said. So for you listening and watching, thank you so much for being here. I hope this has inspired you. And if you want to reach out to any of the authors in this book, you can purchase it here again. Here's the link. They have freebies. Everybody has a freebie in their book, and they're detailed, so you can get hold of those contributors who resonate with you. Come and see what else they're doing. And of course, if you would love to have the experience that these authors and contributors have just gone through, reach out to me. We've always got another book opportunity open, so that your message can get out there as well, so that you too can become that beacon of light in an even bigger way. So to leave you all right now, shine your light, be the beacon of light, and really have that inspired connection with yourself, so that you can create deeper relationships with the world around you.